We have a very special guest. So much has been happening this week. Just saw some news last night where some leaders here in Baltimore, including Willie Flowers, J. Wendell Gordon, Reverend Todd Yeary, Reverend Jamal Bryant, A. Scott Bolden, and Ben Crump had a press conference yesterday to bring attention to what's happening against not just Marilyn Mosby, but also prosecutors in Cook County, Illinois, and in St. Louis. 3 Black women prosecutors who these Black leaders suggest are being targeted by an otherwise hostile government and media, if you ask me. Interesting times. Yesterday, we also announced that, let's see, Anthony Brown is running for Congress. We didn't know that during yesterday's show. He plans to leave Congress and run for, did I say that? He's running for Attorney General. Anthony Brown plans to leave Congress and run for Attorney General. Of course, he used to be the Lieutenant Governor here in the state of Maryland. Other news that came out this week is that Derek Davis is expected to be the next treasurer of the state of Maryland. Good morning, Rico Crawley. Thank you for all your help. Nobody shares our show more than Rico. He's, man, just a blessing to us. But let's get right down to the get down. We'd like to welcome to the show Brother Wendell Shannon. How you doing, Brother Shannon?
Good morning, Brother Donnie. How are you, brother?
Doing good. I'm doing good. Wendell and I met every bit of 15 years ago. Yeah, the last store I remember you had was down on Franklin Street.
And that is the last store. Words by Wendell Bookstore. I closed it about 16 years ago.
Okay, and you have a book.
I have several books.
Come on with it. Long before I wrote this book, this cat was showing me how it's done. Show me how it's done.
Okay, now in today's time, what I've done is I focus my attention on my grandchildren. I created a publishing relationship with each one of them, writing books for them. I'm blessed to be the grandfather of 11. So I have several projects with my grandchildren. The more the merrier is what I heard when I was growing up. Somewhere along the line it changed, but I've refocused and made the more the merrier. So this is one of my first children's books. ABC with TYE. Some of these are my grandchildren, my great nieces and nephews. And this is like an interactive ABC book that features our children. I know when I grew up, I didn't have images that reflected who I was and how beautiful I was created to be. So I use my grandchildren, all my family members, and some friends in a book that shows who they are. So this is the first issue, and as I said, this is animation of the young entrepreneurs, my grandchildren. So I just wanted to show the beauty of what our children or the potential they have. This is another book, Anaya, Alea, and Courtney the Turtle. This is a book that unfolds out our beautiful Cherry Hill. I have a Cherry Hill family that really supports my book publishing, and I did a project with them.
Well, Cherry Hill's supposed to be rich. Let me just throw this in here. You know what rich stands for?
Tell me.
Raised in Cherry Hill.
Yes. This is another book. This is my grandson, Jabril and Jax. And it's called Jabril and Jax the Caterpillar. A beautiful book that unfolds. And in each of these books, and profiling my grandchildren, I'm promoting our illustrious HBCUs in education. This is another book I have called Shake Your Bones. And I wanted to emphasize, these are all COVID promoted and created projects. I've created these projects during COVID. So I've been doing a great deal. This is a legacy project with myself, my son, and my grandson. So it's called Shake Your Bones.
So I got a question for you. Do you know all 11 grandkids' names?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. This is another book called Supreme Stream. My son is an artist, and my grandson aspires to be just like him. Sorry for the lighting, but my grandson aspires to be just like him. So this was a book I created for my grandson. My grandson, De Niro, loves soccer, but he has one secret that he's not happy to share. And that secret is one that's shared in Baltimore City. This is a story, it's a reality story that happens all too often in Baltimore City because of the violence. But this is a comeback story. We all are suckers for love stories and happy endings. And this is one to watch. Just a couple more. This is my great.
Take your time, and these are all COVID projects.
These are all COVID projects, one after another after another. When I did one, I had two on the table. This is my granddaughter, Lakara. And this book is called Seven Senses of Learning. It just deals with the senses and sensibility. It's kind of like, I want to make it an interactive project, but it's very illustrative. All types of children trying to understand their senses to learning. This is my grandson Major and my son Shaquem. And Kings Raise Kings is a beautiful book that illustrates the Kwanzaa principle. Brother Donnie, I hope that this is the first. I'm sorry. This is the first of. Am I still here?
Loud and clear.
Okay. This is the first of many that I wanted to do, just promoting our beauty and self-awareness, things that we have been stripped of understanding. I wanted to reconnect. So the 7 principles of Kwanzaa have become people in this book, young princes who were raised under kings and then become kings. So this is a book, and I have your signed copy, Donnie, ready to go.
Man, when somebody says something about COVID, I need to direct them to you, man. So let me ask you, has any other media picked up on this?
I'm sorry?
Has any other media covered your books?
You are the first, brother.
Okay, well, we got to get you in front of even more eyeballs. I mean, seems like you need a day at the Pratt.
I could use it. I've been so busy grinding and creating, kind of lost myself there, but now I'm up and I'm ready for the promotion aspect. This is my very first kickoff, so I really appreciate your invite, having me on the show. You know, you are one of our elite in Baltimore City. I've seen you pedal the streets, politics, and promote awareness through the community. So I wanted to give you your rose right now to say thank you, brother. Your deeds are not going unnoticed. So thank you.
But my God, Wendell, how many books is that? 7?
Yeah, there should be 8. And I have another book that I'm only going to share with you when we meet privately. And this is a profound book that would touch the hearts of every child. So I have 9 books altogether, and I have sequels to these books, but Donnie, I had to slow down. I was tapping into my savings, all for the children, to make sure they have a legacy, and we created a business opportunity together. That was the purpose of it all. Each one would have the legacy left to them when God calls me home. They would have an understanding of business operations and publishing. So that was the purpose.
So COVID inspired you?
Absolutely, it did. That shut down. Yes, sir. Yes,
well,
sir.
tell me about that. I mean, The idea came to you, oh, let me just make some books. Everybody else is on a panic. People are trying to adjust. People are trying to find out where they can get milk and bread. People got new employment situations, and you're in there writing books.
Absolutely. And during this inspiration came before the shutdown. The children didn't have the necessary tools that they needed to see themselves or in reflection while they were being educated. I mean, it's a dearth of children's books. So it was a wide open market. And I'm watching that through my grandchildren, helping them with homework. So I started the project prior to COVID, and it's only some months prior to COVID. So the ideas I had sketched down, I just started pursuing them aggressively because, and as we know, life is short. So I wanted to leave them something of substance, something of value, as your Black Wall Street concept comes into play.
So you had to develop a team, including the illustrator.
Yes, yes, I have.
Which is one of your sons?
No, one of my sons is a painter. Another, my youngest son, he's a artist. He's a tattoo artist, as a matter of
Where
fact.
did you find the illustrator? Because I know you don't want to have to get a different illustrator for every book. At the same time, it's in the middle of COVID. Some people might be a good illustrator, but they can't keep deadlines. How did you choose your illustrator?
Well, my mind is rapid. I'm rapid fire with ideas, but I follow up on my ideas in children's books. It's not all that easy because you have to be aware in this socially conscious environment. You have to be aware of what you're saying. So I use two illustrators to keep up with me. I have two projects going on at the same time, and I'm feeding both, but I have both stories already storyboarded. So all I'm doing is after I create, I just feed my illustrators, and the rest is history.
Okay, well, your backdrop looks like you're very orderly, but I know if you got two books going on at the same time, you got papers everywhere.
There are papers everywhere. I wish you could see my office. While I was waiting to come on, I started straightening things up. So I had a moment. So it looks a little better in here now.
How do you juggle two books at one time? This book is no way I could juggle this book and another book at the same time. No way.
Um, it's really more than that. I'm proud to announce on your show that I have produced and directed my first documentary called The Dennis Wise Story. Yes, yes, all this at the same time.
What you know about that? Who is Dennis Wise for those who may not know?
He's a legendary figure that was really he's a OG in the streets of Baltimore, a legendary figure, and he was featured in The Wire. So David Simon, they featured him as I guess you call it an imaginary created character in The Wire, but he's a legend that he was director of Safe Streets out there in the streets trying to help the youth, trying to reduce the crime and violence and conflict resolution, nonviolent conflict resolution. So Dennis has been a part of the streets of Baltimore since the 1960s. That's how far his story goes.
What you know about these streets?
Um, I grew up in the streets of Baltimore. These are I'm a West Baltimorean, proudly so, and the same cycle um, that is going on in the streets I once perpetuated. So I know the streets very well. It's commonplace outside of the front door in our communities that the streets are right outside. So it's not difficult. It's not that difficult to be easily drawn to what's happening in the streets. And most of that commonplace is negative things. So I got drawn into by choice. I still say I chose, but I got drawn into the streets at a very early age.
What's going on in these streets today, man?
It's a ball of confusion. That's what the song says. People moving in, people moving out. I can't get a grip on what's happening in these streets down here. I've participated in some of the activities. I've talked to youth. I've been part of those programs. Um, it's hard. It's a diverse set of issues, mental health issues, addiction issues, the single parent kind of syndrome, the no parent syndrome with these kids out there raising themselves and don't have a balance in understanding the principles of right, wrong, and indifferent. It's kind of hard to say. So many, and then the psychological um, complexes that we go through being in that congested city with the lack of opportunity. So it's just so many things, and resolution would only come on a case by case basis.
I mean, I think of, as you're talking, I think about from Lexington Market to Mondawmin, it's a perpetual food desert. So if you got a food desert, you got a lot of people who are not getting fresh fruits and vegetables. So we got a lot of malnourished people eating a lot of fried foods. I'm reminded that a lot of these violent crimes that happen are not always drug related. They're sometimes over a female.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing piss poor schools. I'm seeing them close 2 of the 3 elementary schools we have here in Sandtown, a place with a zip code 21217 that has one of the largest percentages of the state's of the incarcerated. Many of the incarcerated come from 21217, 21215, 21205. These same neighborhoods lack schools. And then I have black politicians telling me, oh, there are not enough kids in your neighborhood for schools. But you close the school, you kill a community.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing a lack of recreational opportunities. I'm seeing money being sent here by the feds, even back during Obama. That money doesn't come to East and West Baltimore. That money goes downtown. I'm seeing a city with a black mayor, black city council president, black comptroller, black state's attorney. Yet we can't solve violent crime. I'm seeing police take a knee since Freddie Gray. I'm seeing people sell coke, dope, and rock in front of the police. And everybody's pointing the finger. How do we fix this city, Wendell Shannon?
I still think it's on a case by case basis. And then to tie into my strategy with my grandchildren, we have to reach the children. We have to go to the children. Each one has to teach as many as they can. No more each one teach one concept.
No, we stingy in this town, man. We still doing the VIP parties and the private parties and black people who are in a position to help thousands of other black people. They only concerned about getting their paycheck so they can get a Louis Vuitton bag or pay their mortgage out in Howard County. What happened to, the teacher living in the same block?
That concept is gone. What happened to the police living in the same block? We have police that's coming from Hagerstown, Eastern Shore, everyday Pennsylvania, that really don't understand what's happening in town. That nonviolent conflict resolution isn't an option for them. So fear and aggression is the end result of what you see on TV. So you don't have teachers in the neighborhoods anymore. And then what's unfair is the NBA players making gazillions of dollars, and you have underpaid, overstressed, overworked teachers who, when these potential teachers go into HBCUs and higher educational institutions, don't find that that's a high-paying, life-sustaining job. So they're not going in that field. It's too much work and not the proper compensation, especially when our teachers are still to this day using personal funds to buy common supplies. That is a sad state that we are in, especially in Baltimore City.
It's a lot of finger pointing. The school CEO, the mayor, Brandon Scott, he'll say that the state owes Baltimore City a ton of money, yet Fox will go and dig up that Baltimore City been scamming. You got ghost students, ghost teachers, people getting paid who never showed up. It's a hot mess all the way around. And what I don't like is how they always boil it down to Democrats and Republicans, because Baltimore is 9-1 Democrats. So anything wrong with Baltimore, you can look towards the Democrats. But they'll say, oh, the state owes us. It's always them. And you know, like I know, in these streets, you don't get to our age if you never take ownership.
Absolutely.
If you keep saying it's Wendell Shannon's fault, it ain't Donnie Glover's fault, it's Wendell's. The more we point the finger, it's three coming back at me. What did I do?
The more we point the finger, the less resolution. And I also heard a conflict about early on with the schools that the governor was saying that the city misappropriated money, wasn't spending money on air conditioning and for the Baltimore City schools. So it's instead of being centered on resolution, it's the blame game. You're looking at him, you're waiting for a statement in response from the mayor. The mayor saying something about the governor. It's a hot mess, as you said. It's a hot mess.
I've noticed that blacks and Democrats get points for swinging on Republicans. But what I never got was when O'Malley was in there, they never swung on him. They swing on Hogan because he's a Republican. He's an easy target. But O'Malley, these cats won't say a word. Like he got their whole card. Like he done peeped their card. Like you better not say nothing about Martin O'Malley.
I don't know if it was much to be said about Martin O'Malley. I'm biased because I was a Martin O'Malley fan. I mean, whoever is in that situation will face criticism, will face financial shortcomings, will face decisions because a yes and a no decision will result in rejection of some of your constituents. So, Martin O'Malley had the city and the state going, man. So I'm an O'Malley fan.
He was about zero tolerance, where the pendulum was all the way to the right, but now the pendulum is all the way to the left. So where under O'Malley, they were locking up people for sitting on their own steps. Now, cats smoking blunts in front of police and looking at them like, what and what?
But I must say, hats off to Sister Merlin Mosby for her aggressive stance on those lower level crimes. It's understandably so that if a person wants to self-abuse, use and overindulge in things, it's a lot of money being appropriated for us to attempt to intervene and stop. Now, I'm not talking about criminality, but that's a whole red light district kind of situation that should be addressed. People are going to sell it. People are going to use it. And I don't think a lot of our resources should be going in that direction. It's bigger fights. It's bigger fires to put out. So her strategy, I just read a couple of days ago, John Hopkins did a study favoring the outcome of Marilyn Mosby's position in decriminalizing some of those drug offenses, prostitution.
I'm glad John Hopkins is on it now, because when Smoke mentioned it 20 years ago, he was dismissed. And it's interesting you should mention Johns Hopkins. I question their credibility, because these are the same people responsible for the theft of Henrietta Lacks's cell. So I'm like Judge Judy. You lie to me once, you don't get no more times to lie. You gotta prove your credibility. And so when I look at Johns Hopkins and their expansion in East Baltimore and how their expansion has equaled the reduction of black people, what credibility do they have?
You're right about it. I didn't think that far into it, but that was something I read, and we was talking about, the structure in politics.
Yeah, but their theories, Wendell, get perpetuated around the world like they the authority. It's like a preacher that's telling you, don't do this, don't do that. But when you pull back the curtain, They doing all of that and some.
And that's happening all over the world because, we all fall short. And I understand what you're saying about Hopkins. But what is there to believe if that be the case? Hopkins is a premier hospital all around the world.
You must not have heard the rumors.
I must not.
Back in 1950, my grandma said, "Don't fall asleep over in East Baltimore. Don't be drunk in East Baltimore because you'll end up in a Hopkins experiment." That's the word on the streets of East Baltimore.
Okay. And I know about that. I do know about that. But even still, West Baltimore, where I grew up at, they said the same thing about Bon Secure Hospital.
Oh, that's a meat shop. That's a meat shop.
Yeah. And that passed on to University Hospital because we couldn't understand going in for a common cold, and people end up dying with no real explanation. So I understand
sure it is.
Going back to the Tuskegee experiment.
Before that, they were doing experiments. There's a man named J. Marion Sims. They call him the father of gynecology. They call him the father of gynecology in medical schools today. When he wasn't no more, he was worse than Columbus. He was doing experiments on black women without anesthesia. Savages.
Yeah.
Just like when they took Henrietta Lacks's cells. Theft. Lying is lying, stealing is stealing. You can put it in a $2,000 suit. A thief is a thief.
Yes. And I believe that. So, and I'm praying for justice for that Lacks family.
I pray they get paid.
Yeah.
And remember, Oprah supported the lady that wrote the book perpetuating the lie. You ain't know that?
I saw her in the movie. I saw her in the being profiled. So yes, she supported the movie, but I didn't know she perpetuated the lie.
We waiting on the real story to come out. See, too often when we don't control our own media.
Yes.
You got 9 books there, one for each, the grandkids, a legacy builder. Too often we've been reading somebody else's story and believing it. I don't trust them to believe anything they say.
Absolutely.
Nothing about Jesus, about medicine, about history, nothing. I don't believe nothing they say.
Your disbelief is wholly justified and is proven true. It is proven true because fact after fact, we realizing we've been hoodwinked and scammed. And when we do have leaders strong enough,
they get killed.
Absolutely. And it was strategic that our leadership is in disarray even now because they have us separated by all these different belief systems, and it's kind of chaotic as well too, politics.
One of the things I talk about in this book is Black Indians. You got Indian in your family?
I do. I really do. From down south.
A very famous historian named Henry Louis Gates, they call him Skip Gates. He said only 2 to 3% of black people have Indian blood. Now, my thing to him is, how do you know? Because every other black person I talk to got some type of Indian blood. And this is where I'm going with this. America will tell us that the first blacks came to North America as slaves. I just don't believe it. There's too much evidence to the contrary. As a matter of fact, in this book, I prove that the first 2 black men in America were Spanish conquistadors. They were explorers.
Okay.
Who were showing Columbus's lost self how to get here. That melanin, you look at the Mayans artwork, you look at the Olmec heads with those noses and those broad lips. You look at Kincaid's Cave in Nevada, Egyptian artifacts. Or you look at the 450 mound pyramids across the United States. Now get this book and you're going to learn some stuff that they've been lying and hiding from us all along. But I'm here to tell you that black people were already here when the European arrived, and it's been war ever since.
I can't
Tell
agree
me
more.
one thing we haven't covered. What happens when so many of our black men are incarcerated?
Oh, it's a chain reaction. It's dysfunction. And you know what? We living in times that it shows the truth. The truth that you availed in your book is the same truth we're living. Um, the black men are essential to the structure of the family. And even in the conventional sense, some believe that black men are the head of the family because, the socially conscious and sensitive time we live in. I'll just generalize. But um, the black man as leader in the family, that has been suspended. And that goes back to when I was a child, when families were receiving social service, and social service would raid the house looking for man articles, and would penalize the woman and the children if a man presence was shown in the house. So black man has been under attack, and now the system of mass incarceration has been so. Even now, it's insurmountable. The numbers are clear. It is taking the backbone structure out of our community. You have boys being raised without a man's influence. That's, and the uncle and other family members are so involved in life itself. We don't have that kind of quality time when we had growing up to kind of share those human resources, the sweat equity, investing in children like nieces, nephews. Uh, it's terrible, man. And then you always have the attack on the black men, and when they come back home after incarceration, they are hit with so many limits. Thank God they can vote, but they hit with so many limits: housing limits, employment limits. How is a man to make a living? Even you talk about restitution. If he has no gainful income, he can't make a living for himself. What in the world would he care about restitution? It's about survival, and it's been that way since servitude, since enslavement. So, I mean, the black man in his absence is being felt deeply within our community. And women who've always been the strength of our families, they have to step up. And sometimes, even now, when men are around, they get swallowed because women have stepped up for so far and so long that they hold the reins. It's fear of letting it go.
A man I know who's about my age, 56 or so, recently went over to Central Booking. When he came home, he said the hoppers are off the hook. The gangs run the phones. He said it ain't like it was 20 years ago. It's a whole new day in the jail.
I believe so. Yeah. The world has changed. The world that we knew before is no longer. And I understand the concepts of why my parents didn't want, they had a fear of us growing up in the world that they gave birth to us in. And we feel the same way. If I had to trade my childhood for being raised now, I would never do it. It's a challenging time for us, but the world is opening up too, Donnie, for opportunities like your publishing opportunity. Our life and styles are being profiled on many documentaries and TV shows. Like you have the 50 Cent with the Power, and BMF Boys. That's out, and it's profiling the lot, our struggle to survive, the choices we voluntarily make, and the lifestyles that come with it. It's all entertainment now. So I would never think we would get to that point, because it was always condemnation of whatever we had to go through, whether it was gang violence and had to endure in the communities, or just trying to stay in school and become educated, with being surrounded with that negativity. It has always been an attack on us, but now it's a form of entertainment.
So I got to link you with David Miller. David Miller is my book coach. He coached me through the production of my 2 books. And I want to connect you because he's real good at selling his book. He sells hundreds of books per month. And he's got children's books. One is Chef Toussaint. That's his latest book. Chef Toussaint. Toussaint after Toussaint Louverture, the leader of the Haitian Revolution, but he's a chef. So he's a chef with a very historical name. But the reason I want to link you with David is because he's also, number one, he knows how to penetrate the school systems. We need those books in school systems around Maryland, around Virginia, around California. We need your books in the schools so our young people can see books with their faces in it. Absolutely. In 2021, that's the least we should be able to do. Also, getting these books in the libraries and getting you into these various bookstores around the country, particularly the Black bookstores. I'm working on getting them, doing a book signing at Mahogany down in DC. And the big point that I want to make to you is you'll get more love with your books. You'll get more love regarding your books quite often in another city. Baltimore don't take care of its own. I found I get a lot more love in other places when you travel. But Baltimore, I don't know. Difficult animal.
You get a response from Baltimore after you make it. After you make it, they claim you. But it's Baltimore's town.
Thanks a lot.
This is what I heard, and this is what is true to me, my experience. If you can make it in Baltimore, you can make it anywhere. And I believe that is so. So
no question. Around the country. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. I was in Harlem a month ago. Man, overwhelming support. And plus, I'm happy to be in New York anyway. But the energy, you can't fake that energy.
Yes.
In Baltimore, and a politician, Delegate Melvin Stooks, told me this years ago. He said the problem in Baltimore is Baltimore's stingy. I know you thirsty. I know the water fountain is right around the corner. But something's sick up here that just, I'm not going to tell you. I want to see you, thirsty.
Yeah. Baltimore's a tough town, man.
I say the mothers ain't love their children. If your mother loved you, then, my mother loved me. So I ain't got no problem being a blessing, sharing with somebody. But some people don't know how to share. Yeah. And it don't matter how rich or poor they are. They just stingy.
Yeah.
So what's next? What's next? I sent some television deals, brother.
Well, that's next. Just researching that. But what I'm proud to announce on your show, the next is a YouTube channel with content that would educate our children. Because it's not, Donnie, it's like you say, I'm a son like you of a mother's love. And it's not about the equity, because that's going to come. I don't want people to think that I'm just marketing books for profit. These are educational tools that teach our children. So in a sense, you and I are teachers. When somebody reads these books, if they learn anything, we have taught them. So I want to start a YouTube channel so the children can get that content off the channel without having to spend money, because it's not all about the money. Although it's mechanisms in place about marketing and the promotion, that comes second. What comes first is being able to hit a global, like Bill Cosby and the Cosby Kids. Now, I will say this, I'm proud to be a part of a movement that I can walk in Bill Cosby's shoes, in the sense of providing that Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids concepts to children who can identify. So all of my books would be platforms for children to identify and appreciate their melanin blackness. So YouTube is a venue that we are researching right now. I'm building a team. And I want to go back to what you said. Having a team, it's kind of difficult in our city to formulate a team. So I'm using all the resources I can to put out these products, man, knowing that at the end of the day, I'm super satisfied and I can snore comfortably when I sleep. because I've worked hard for the next generation. It's up to us now to sacrifice, and that's where I'm at. It's about sacrificing because the Creator has been good to me, man. So it's about pouring in, not just a cup full. I'm just pouring a whole heart full of myself into the next generation. And these books are touching people, touching our children. So for that, I'm grateful.
Michael Eugene Johnson dropping some knowledge on Johns Hopkins. You know, I want us to believe in ourselves. I want us to know our history. And I don't want us to be fully dependent. No research is solely dependent on one source. A lot of us are solely dependent on Ancestry.com to find out who we are. We need to go down to Richmond, Virginia, and research our records. We need to go to Louisiana. We need to collect those records that our grandmothers and grandfathers and great grandparents left. Stop believing everything for the thing that's being sold to us, because people lie, and they lie all the time.
Let me interject. Let me give you some information. I don't know if you do know, but I want to make you and our listeners aware that AfricanAncestry.com is different from Ancestry.com. AfricanAncestry.com is based out of DC, and they provide you with a more accurate sense of awareness from where you come from.
How I'm going to let somebody that don't look like me tell me where I'm from and believe them?
African
with their track record. You know what I mean?
But this is African Ancestry.
I get it, but I'm talking about the other ones.
All right, right.
But we pay them willy-nilly $20 a month coming out. We find that, man, we finance so much stuff to our detriment.
Yeah.
Without even, I'm just saying, do a little bit of research. We so lazy though.
Conditioned behavior, bro.
I'm going in that library. I'll tell you one that I have not been in yet. That's the National Archives. They got one in PG, one in DC. So much of our history has been hidden from us, man. Much of what we have been told is lies. For instance, in this book, you'll learn that the oldest American is a black woman from Brazil. She got an old forehead. Her name is Luzia, Luzia, a black woman, and her bones are 12 to 14,000 years old. We've never heard of Luzia. Nobody ever mentioned it. All we get is some whitewashed version that says that we are slaves. Our history did not begin nor end with slavery.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Fact. So what can people do to support you, Wendell Shannon? You got some contact? You want to put it in the chat? We can put it up as a banner. How can people reach you? Is there a website?
Some so far. And as I said, I was building, we're currently in the process of building a team because I need help. Some of the books are listed at www.go-daddyproductions.com. GoDaddy Productions, go-daddyproductions.com. And
well, that's an interesting name.
Yes. And that's all for the grandchildren. It was for the children, saying, go daddy, do your thing as far as writing and publishing was concerned, because it was a sacrifice. Yes, it was a sacrifice for my family. This is, as you say in the research, it's a tedious process, and it takes nothing but time. It's a lot of time, and congratulations on your book again. It takes a whole lot of time and effort and determination to get these things done. Too oftentimes we start and don't finish. And I never want to be like that again in my life. I've lived that life of starting something and stopping. So,
well, you are part of the reason that I had to write the book, because, you know, over time, I remember how diligently, you know, we were pushing your book, 10, 15 years ago, and I got a chance to see the grind up close.
Yes.
It's hard to do something that you've never seen done before, but you gave me enough inspiration. I was like, maybe I can write a book one day too, because until you've done it. Until you've done it, it seems impossible. But after you've done it, then you start seeing what God has revealed to you of your abilities, of how the universe will. Let me ask you this. What kind of help came to you as you started writing books? Because if you found the first one difficult, I can't imagine you wanting to write a second one. At some point, you had to feel the universe saying, go, Wendell, or like you just said, the babies and the grandbabies say, go, granddaddy.
Yes. What's important, and again, we go back to what we have in common, being a mama's son. What was important for me with my mother was to define my life, make something of myself. And that's self-defining. I wanted to be something great, didn't know what it was. And when I found that connection, I pursued that passion. Now, yes, I would spend it all for the end result. But it took a lot of determination wanting to fulfill my own definition of success. I am, in my own definition, successful with all these publications. But to answer your question, a lot of human angels came in my walk. If it was not for a season, it was always for a reason. Some still remain, and I do thank my forever friends for supporting me. But people just pop out the woodwork to help you pay bills and help you finance other up and coming ideas. And it's like, thank you, God, for the blessing of just human angels coming in. A lot of people wait for the pie to rain down out of the sky, but that's not so. God will bless you, and you in your outreach of touching people would touch and change the lives of people unawares, man. So it's a lot of angels out there that have stepped in to help me when I ran out of gas. I mean, and I'm talking about motivation. It's like, no, you can't stop, man. I'm tired. I'm tired of exhausting my resources. I'm just physically tired. My brain is burnt. No, take a rest, but you got to come back, because this is our destiny, brother. This is our destiny. And the next step after YouTube is cinema. We want to have some of these children's programs on TV, in the movies. We want to do great things. Baltimore is responsible for a wealth of talent that has touched the world, man. We got people coming from Baltimore, man. And when Donald Trump said something
Called
about
Baltimore SHIT hole.
yeah, to Elijah Cummings, I am responsible, and that's the project I want to share with you personally and wholeheartedly. I got a response for that, man. That is jaw dropping. It is jaw dropping. I
Well,
want you.
it's easy to point fingers, especially, for somebody who's complicit. Who is he to point fingers at anybody? He's a dude that's arguing with a 13-year-old girl in public. He's a clown.
Yeah, hmm yeah. That's it. But we have our challenges in Baltimore City, but I love Baltimore City. This is
I love Baltimore too. I've been sharing it this week that they can say what they want about Baltimore, but if you fall down, somebody gonna pick you up in Baltimore.
absolutely. Might take a minute, but they're gonna pick you up. We respond to that trauma. We do. So I'm proud of Baltimore, man. I'm proud of my family with the support of my children and grandchildren. I'm just pushing, man, and I had to stop down. I have to be honest. The creativity flows, and it could be one project today, and tomorrow I'll be working on another project. And a lot of times, my mother used to tell me too much of anything, but I'm able to juggle these projects, man. I have sequels to these books, but now I'm looking for sponsorship. I'm looking for exposure. I'm looking for PR people. I'm looking for the necessary tools to take it to another level. Now, I am responsible for creativity, but I'm not a PR person. And I need help in those categories, paid help. So if anybody is interested, they can reach out to me at gdpshannon at yahoo.com. I could use the resources, although I'm unlimited. I'll say that I'm unlimited with the resources, and there are angels that are gonna step up and expose me unawares just being on your show. So again, I appreciate you, brother, for even the invite, because you had to be updated on some of the things I was doing. And this platform allows me to expose myself and the talents and the sacrifice to your audience, man. So again, I thank you.
Well, maybe it's time for you to do a show on this network, maybe a Saturday morning show for young people.
We could talk. You are truly my mentor, man. But I came to you and you pushed me. You pushed my book. You pushed my store. I needed that help, and you became one of those angels that you just asked me about.
Well, I saw a brother out there hustling, and I knew one day I wanted to be like you. So I better share my gift, because as I was sharing, you were sharing with me, whether you knew it or not, of how this thing is done. And I've learned. This is the second book, but the first book is a book is a business.
Yeah.
I don't mean the 7 of them that you got. I mean, each individual one is a whole different campaign, is a whole different business, is a whole new set of book signings, and so on and so forth. But we're supposed to be getting smarter and using technology. I did want to ask you that before we go. How has technology changed the book game from when you started? Because now you can self-publish. You can do so much for yourself.
Yeah. What's interesting is the book I showed you called Shake Your Bones. Let me show it one more time. This will be my first, let me go this way. This will be my first downloadable ebook. So this will be, the audio book. So I had to, the way we used to hawk, it's almost synonymous with how we used to sell newspapers. That's kind of few and far in between. You do have little stands historically that still exist. However, everybody's doing it a certain way. So we have to change. Yeah, we have to change with the changes. Travel, we do everything. This is our second heartbeat. So now we have to do everything electronic. So now what has changed is, as I told you, the YouTube channel, I'm trying to go in that direction. The downloadable books with Amazon, I'm trying to go in on that channel. So it has changed a great deal. No longer do you see a whole lot of people selling books on the corner. You don't see a whole lot of book stands anymore. It just really don't.
Do you remember the guy, Poor Black and in Real Trouble?
Yes, I do. I forgot his name.
Wasn't it Jerome or something? But I saw that man. I watched him. He was one of the first cats I ever saw with his own book.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he would be down there, center stage? Or the mechanic? It was the mechanic.
It was probably Morse Mechanic down on Baltimore Street, right under the little sky wall. Yeah.
And he sold that book, man. I would be coming home from waiting tables, and he right there selling that book, man. It was more than just a book. He made it a outdoor bookstore.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was some recent years, it was when I still had the store that stand was still open. They just, of course, they're doing renovations down there now.
Yeah.
But that stand, that location was still open. Yeah, that was still open. But technology is changing things, and we have to change with the changes in order to keep up. But most importantly, to reach people. That medium is important to reach more people. So I'm changing the changes.
I'm gonna step off the screen. I want you to go through and do one more presentation of your books again, and say whatever you like, and I'll leave the email address for anybody to contact you. We're proud of you, bro.
Thank you. And that's gdpshannon@yahoo.com, Brother Donnie. I just want to give a visual. This is a book I wrote for my son and my grandson. It's called Kings Raise Kings. It features the principles of Kwanzaa so children can get acclimated to the principles, the working principles of Kwanzaa. And it's in character form. So they'll get a greater gravitation toward the understanding of Kwanzaa. Thank you, Donnie. This is a book called The 7 Senses of Learning. And it helps children with the sight, smell kind of concept. This book is my grandson Dinero's. It's called The Soccer Boy Secret, and it deals with the pervasiveness of crime and the violence in Baltimore City and single parent household and how he worked through his issues. This is Supreme's Dream, another book for one of my grandsons. This is called Jabril and Jax the Caterpillar. I had two grandsons in one book. Anaya, Aaliyah, and Courtney the Turtle. And one more. The most profound book was being able to incorporate them all in ABCs with the Young Entrepreneurs. That's what TYE stands for. So these are my books current.
What's TYE stand for?
The Young Entrepreneurs. The Young Entrepreneur. As I told you, I wanted to create a business opportunity with my children. So they are the young entrepreneurs that I created. Each book, as you said, and it's confirmed, is its own experience, its own identity. And I've invested in them independently. So I have a business relationship with my grandchildren. So
why is that important?
Learning business took me a long time to understand the legitimate concepts of business. I wanted to introduce them straight off so they'll have the fundamentals of operating their own business. And they do that already. They have the little concepts, not all, but some of my grandchildren have the concept of owning their own business, doing their own thing. And that independence is very important to the self-esteem.
I got to share this one last thing with you. I did a book signing Saturday up at the EMOD Center, 2132 West North Avenue. And I raised the question. It was a heavily Muslim crowd. And I asked them, who was the richest man who ever lived? And they all said Mansa Musa.
Okay, so I was going the Mansa Musa way. So tell us the truth.
Mansa Musa.
Okay. Yeah, Mansa Musa. Yeah.
Black man.
Mm-hmm.
Ali, the richest king who ever lived then, now, and the future too.
Yep, he upset the economy with all that he gave, man. He gave gold all around, everywhere he went. Yeah,
that's right.
Mansa Musa. Yeah. And our first black billionaire came from Baltimore.
Reginald F. Lewis.
Yes, sir. We have a museum that he left behind for us to honor him in it. So Reginald F. Lewis from Baltimore. And again, that trumps Trump assertion about Baltimore being a S-hole, man. Baltimore is a birthing center to some great people, man.
What can Trump tell me? I have white addicts in my alley shooting dope. What can he possibly tell me, bro?
Nothing that makes sense. He can't finish a statement. He can't tell you anything that makes sense.
And the people that follow him, these are not A students. Love you dearly, Wendell. Thank you for investing in me a long time ago, bro. And see how that come right back around.
Thank you, brother. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to sit down with you. See you soon.
Keep doing what you're doing. My name's Johnny Glover. We'll be back at 7 p.m. tonight for Black USA Crypto News with Kamal Hubbard from the East Bay area. Good morning, world.
See you later.